This week, as we approach the observance of Good Friday, our reflection on Jesus going to the cross, and celebrating his resurrection on Easter Sunday, we want to give you a chance to walk through some of what Jesus and others experienced during those events. So I'm outside to represent the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus went and prayed the night before he was going to the cross. We have a lot of details in the Gospels given to us about that last night before the cross. Jesus has his Last Supper, his last Passover meal with his disciples. He spends an extended amount of time teaching them. He spends time praying with them and for them. And then the scriptures also record that they sang a hymn before they left the city, most likely one of the Psalms from the Old Testament. And then they left and they went outside of Jerusalem to a place called the Mount of Olives. And there was a garden there, and this was a place that Jesus frequently went with his disciples. We'll read about what happens next in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed. Now, in the Gospel of Luke, it says that Jesus went about a stone's throw away. Now, I don't know if that is a Drew Brees stone's throw away or one of my stone's throws, but it was far enough for Jesus to be isolated, for him to have solitude, for him to be alone with his Father while he prayed. And the disciples were left kind of a stone's throw distance away from him. When we go through difficulties, when we go through trials, challenges, tribulations, when we go through physical pain and suffering, we can wonder if God cares, if God understands. But when we look at what Jesus went through over the course of this time period, the sorrow, the tension, the agony, the physical pain, the spiritual pressure and the spiritual burden of what he would carry on the cross, we know that he understands anything that we might be going through. John 18:4 tells us that Jesus went into this knowing all that would happen to him. He even prays for a way out. He says, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." The Gospel of Luke records this detail. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and comforted him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. So Jesus, the Son of God, God in the flesh, is surrendered to the will of the Father. The agony and pain and tension at this moment is so intense that his sweat has become mixed with blood. This is an actual condition where under great stress, the capillaries alongside your sweat glands can burst, and his blood was mixed with his sweat. That's the intensity of what Jesus is experiencing as he anticipates going to the cross. He knows that this is what he came for. This is his ultimate purpose, to go to the cross carrying the sins of all mankind. Matthew 26 continues and says, "Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. 'Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?' he asked Peter. 'Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.' He went away a second time and prayed, 'My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done.' When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, 'Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer.'" And there, outside in the beauty of the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives, Jesus is betrayed, and he is arrested. And that brings us to the next part of the story with his arrest and the trials that he faced. But being in prayer was the most essential thing for Jesus to do this night. Being in prayer provides protection from temptation. Prayer is our source of strength when our flesh is weak. In prayer is also where we surrender ourselves to God, releasing our plans and our priorities and our desires, and saying as Jesus did, "Not my will, but yours be done." So whatever sources of stress or anxiety, whatever difficulties or challenges may await you, be in prayer, trusting that God is working in His purposes and working His plans, remembering that Jesus would go to the cross carrying all of our sins and all of our burdens. He knows the weight of struggle and anxiety, and He carries our sins as His burden to the cross because of His great love for us. So this week, continue to spend time in prayer, thanking God for all that He has done for you, thanking Jesus for what He did in bearing our sin on the cross. And be looking for more videos this week as we encourage you and challenge you as we walk through the journey to the cross. Thanks.